you are not even old enough to legally drink in this country and you own a 5-axis machine tool. I don't want that to like be lost in translation, you know?
Dave, Eric, welcome to 2026.
Can't believe it. It's here. Haven't seen you guys since last year. Oh,
Actually,
you saw me yesterday.
That's true.
The real tragedy is Nick hasn't been on this show in several episodes. He's back after a little break from the Lights Out podcast. So we're grateful to have you here. Although we can't make as many jokes at your expense because you're here to defend yourself. So
it's good. We recorded making chips yesterday, and it's the first time I've recorded in a while, and I acted like I didn't know how to talk and do it. And you'll have to hear it. It was pretty funny.
New year, new you.
Let's hope you like the format of the newly titled Dave and Eric show.
Yeah, sure it's a lot better now. No, but guys, this is an episode I've been so excited about ever since we met our guest at the Boombastic show in Texas when we were with Titan and Keith and the gang over there. You know how there's things that happen where people are like, oh, it restored my faith in humanity. You know, like someone will be nice to somebody and like, oh, it's like when I met our guest, it was like, wow, you know, there really is a chance. This industry really does have a chance. Like maybe the skills gap isn't as big as we thought, because he's just like, he represents, I don't know. I've been like anti-cloning. Okay. Like I'm not for cloning people, but like we can clone this guy a few hundred times. Let's do that.
If you recall, you introduced me to him at Boombastic, and very impressive. Makes me question some of my own parenting skills when I hear what he's up to compared to. I love my children dearly, but I think some of our listeners might feel the same. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I connected with him for the first time yesterday, and I thought, man, this guy's got a lot figured out. He's a serious operator.
Yeah. So we'll let him tell his story. Yeah, but let's introduce him. So our guest today, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but I believe you bought your first machine when you were 16 or 17?
Correct. Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then your second machine the year after?
Yep.
And then when we were at Boombastic, you were talking about a shiny new Matsura that you just purchased?
Yeah, so I just got the Matsura when we were talking. That was on order, but it's delivered, installed, and ready to go now at the new shop.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's a nice early, starter machine. It's easy to think with, of course.
Yeah.
And so you are the entrepreneur and the founder of, is it Munkworks?
Correct.
Is that the name of the business?
Yes.
Well, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you.
Great to see you again, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the invite. I've been listening to all the Within Tolerance podcast stuff. I heard about it first with Boombastic, but it's really neat going back and listening to some of those.
You know, it's cool because there used to be like one podcast or zero podcasts before the first Making Chips started. And then now there's so many good ones. I think we've got like 9 in the Making Chips network. Within Tolerance isn't even one of them, but we love those guys over there. It's just cool. There's such a variety of different kinds of shows that all have a different angle, a different host. And there's a lot more options for people out there who are driving or working out. Or for me, I was mowing the lawn when I first discovered Making Chips. And I just wanted some, good industry content with my peers, people making chips. And that's how I discovered the show. So let's go back, though, and get to your origin. You don't see a lot of 16, 17-year-old machine shop founders. So, take us back.
Any.
Yeah, you're the first, actually. but take us back to I guess you were in high school, I would imagine. So take us back to kind of how it all started, what you were interested in as a kid, and then why you decided to create your own business when most kids are trying to figure out how to convince their parents to buy them a car.
Yes. Yeah, so I guess I got started really early with just building things. I always loved creating. Probably when I was 8 or 10, I had access to a full wood shop garage with just some basic hand tools. So I would do wood carving, wood burning, anything I could do to get my hands dirty and go build something. So that's just continued my whole life. I got it really into RC airplanes at 12 or 13. So I was building a new airplane every week. I would just carve it out of foam, go throw some electronics on it, solder it up, and go fly it, and then completely destroy it moments later and have to rebuild it. So that's sort of how I got my start into building different things. that all led into 3D printing. So around 2020, 2019, started getting into that and learned how to design stuff just for all the airplanes I was doing.
Do you remember the first 3D printer you purchased? Like what it was, what brand it was, and
Yeah. So,
like what materials it could work with and the size of the part that it could produce?
so funny story on that. It was a newer, I guess, Chinese type 3D printer. But in order to get a discount, my dad just purchased a few pallets of them to sell as retail, because he had been doing online retail for 20, or he's done it for 20 years.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it was a Tier Time Cetus, if anybody is familiar with that vintage of printer. Not a super well-known one.
So he bought pallets of them. How many units was that?
I want to say there were like 200 printers. So as a 14-year-old, I became responsible for figuring out all the returns, repairing them, diagnosing things. A customer would send it back with just like a completely destroyed hot end. I'd have to go swap that out, recalibrate everything.
So cool, man.
So that was sort of my start in 3D printing, and I would do airplanes and drones, all sorts of little parts for those.
Michael, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
I am 20. I will not be
Okay.
21 until next year. Well, I guess this year now.
So
Yeah.
So this is so like, I just want to point a few things out to give the folks at home a little bit of a reference, right? Michael fully grew up during the time when there's a computer, a cell phone in every home, video game systems, and he's making a conscious decision to go out there and solder up planes and fix 3D printers. And I think that is really amazing. But I think something else, it's like, you are not even old enough to legally drink in this country, and you own a 5-axis machine tool. I don't want that to like be lost in translation, you know?
So good.
Yeah, I know that's not a typical place for a 20-year-old to be, but I've been given so many opportunities and many great people around me. So, and I credit it to the Lord of just blessing me so abundantly. So that's sort of my purpose of trying to do all this, is I've been given so much, and I'm just trying to make use of it and be a good steward of what I've been given.
Man, there you go.
Man.
Right at the core. Man, I love that. Okay, so you got all these, you have 199 Chinese 3D printers that you're responsible for, one that you get to use, and all the other ones you have to fix and service and take care of. How did that lead from there into machining and deciding, hey, Dad, like, you know how I asked you for a 3D printer? Well, can I start a company?
Bill, for Christmas this year.
It was basically like that, with a little bit of stuff in between.
Okay, so yeah, tell us that story.
Yeah, so right when 2020, all the COVID stuff happened, there was a startup that decided to do a bunch of like mask and firefighter stuff for like putting mask filters on their SCBA mask, so like a full filter respirator. So I got involved since I was the only person in that area that knew anything about 3D printing or design and stuff like that. I got to head up that entire project for the 3D printing side. So that led to me running a 3D print farm round the clock for a few months and just growing skills and learning more about that. So that was sort of the start. And then some of the same people did a tech startup for firefighter radio devices. And then I got to be involved with some of the hardware design. So 3D printing parts, laser cutting stuff. So they got a small CO2 laser. And then I had already done some stuff with laser stuff. So I was able to jump on that, teach everybody how to use it, and then make some parts with it.
My gosh.
So yeah, that got me started in design stuff, more actual like hardware projects. I was absolutely in love with building stuff. So that was a really neat opportunity to be able to grow those skills.
I think that's just super interesting that that additive manufacturing, additive, whether if it's 3D printer or whatever, kind of led you then into subtractive manufacturing. I think that's super interesting, because I firmly believe for most others, it's the other way around. They've been doing subtractive a long time, and now they're looking at ways to incorporate additive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar thought, Eric. Like, the risk and the cost of the material over his life. So, you know, started with like foam, and you could break planes and fix them that same day.
Yeah.
And then from there it went to, you know, 3D printing with the materials, not too bad. And then now he's starting to get into like sheet metal stuff. And then eventually it gets into, you know, what we're familiar with, making chips. So
Yeah. So beware, parents, that RC airplanes are the gateway into a really rewarding career.
yeah, the gateway drug into having an awesome kid.
Yeah. Anything that you're building and designing stuff creatively, I think that's a really good way to get kids interested in all of this from an early age. Of if they realize that they can go build this thing that they want to build by 3D printing something, that's pretty amazing. And that's sort of what unlocked it for me.
That's cool.
I want this thing to fly. And how do I do that?
In manufacturing, growth isn't accidental, it's engineered. But a lot of suppliers are still building their pipeline on outdated lists, inconsistent follow-up, and hope-based marketing, hoping their website will somehow bring in leads. Gabe Draper, the founder of Factur, knows that struggle. Years ago, he ran a shop that went bankrupt, not because of quality, but because he didn't have a steady way to generate new opportunities. That experience is what led him to build Factur. Factur helps suppliers create consistent sales opportunities by combining targeted outreach with marketing that puts you in front of the right buyers. Their team finds the right companies, starts real conversations, and sets qualified meetings. So if your pipeline swings with referrals or seasonality, Factur brings a system that puts you back in control. And for listeners of this show, Factur is offering a free custom report that highlights the best opportunities in your industry, plus a list of real companies that match what you do. Request yours at facturmfg.com/chips. That's FACTUR-MFG.com/chips.
Yeah, there has to be that reward. And I think that's sometimes what's missing from like the traditional apprenticeship model, where you have to put in 2,000 hours of standing in front of a machine or whatever. And it's all time based instead of what can you produce and what are you competent in. You know, Titan talks about a lot of that. Like, just, hey, if you can make parts, why would you stand there and do the same thing? Like, move on to the next thing, level up. And that's what you did. You just kept leveling up to the next thing. And so at this part in your story, you're at some laser cut parts, right?
Yeah. So then that sort of transitioned into, I was watching all the Titans of CNC videos, John Saunders, John Grimsmo, all these people that were doing content on YouTube. That's what really hooked me on machining. But I had no idea that I would ever like be able to own one of those crazy fancy machines. Cause like I saw the Haas machines and I saw John Grimsmo's Kern, and I was like, yeah, that's basically the same thing. It's at such a level that I could never reach that.
Okay. So in your mind, like a Haas mill was just too expensive for you to be able to afford. And so it might as well be $1 million Kern.
Yeah. It was like the highest level that you could reach.
Wow.
From what I had seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was looking at like Tormox and like knee mill conversions. Like I was looking into doing that. But yeah, fast forward, I think it was 2021. My dad, he's been in online retail, so he had a couple of products that there was a similar competing product, but nothing designed for the product that he sells. It's a grain mill, so a hand-powered grain mill. And he wanted to be able to run it with a power drill. So just an adapter for that. So we were just looking into it, and it's like, oh, it's got to be stainless steel so it doesn't rust. And me not knowing that stainless steel is a pain to machine was like, okay, yeah, we'll figure this out. So one thing led to another, and I went down the hole of like, what if I got a Tormach? Like that would be the thing to be able to make all of these parts.
That's so cool. So your first part was like an adapter so that you could innovate and offer something that the market didn't have. Instead of cranking a grain mill and milling your grain by hand, you could just put a little power drill on it. You've got this little, like, I'm imagining it in my head, you've got this little adapter and some way for someone to not have to sit there and hold it down, or did they still have to sit there, like pull the trigger on the power drill to move it?
Yeah, so you would still have to pull the trigger. It was just a small, like just a standard drill bit type thing, about 1.25 inch diameter.
And Michael, I mean, not to like back up too much, but I imagine through this kind of evolution of your skill set, going from like additive to these other types of manufacturing, you're probably picking up design, CAD, CAM software, and all that stuff along the way?
Yeah, so started out with student version of Fusion because I wasn't selling anything. So I used that for a few years, just designing airplane parts and stuff. But yeah, definitely Fusion, learning some of the skills for soldering, hand tools, other stuff like that.
Nice.
So when Dad asked about manufacturing that product, he was like, "So is there any way to do this?" And I was like, "Well, actually, yes," because I had been watching all the Titans of CNC videos of how do you actually machine stuff? How do you go through all the Titan 1M parts? So every Titans of CNC video I could find, I was watching. It was mostly YouTube of just finding any machining video, and honestly any cool building thing. That's what really interested me.
So you would just run from like, okay, I just watched that, and then you would go run to your Tormach that you eventually bought, and then you would try it out.
So I actually did not do any sort of Tormach where I had no manufacturing experience. I had not seen like an actual CNC mill, but I got some advice from another local shop owner. And he was like, "Hey, you should look at this new machine called the Haas DM2, which in my mind, that's like way more of a machine than I thought I would need." But I'm very glad that he steered me in that way because that really shaped. Because that was the first machine I bought, is the DM2. So we got that on order for this drill bit part. I never touched a CNC machine. I'd never seen one in person until this machine shows up. So the riggers stuck it on a truck. They brought it over to the shop. We sectioned off a small area of Dad's warehouse. So I got to go run all the wiring for that, put in light.
So that was your first shop, is like kind of a corner of the warehouse then.
Yeah, 600 square feet. And that's what I just moved out of with all the machines.
And that now you just like moved states, if I remember right, from our first conversations.
So since Boombastic, I left Boombastic, flew back to Idaho, picked up my family, flew back to Tennessee, loaded up the entire shop and my house in 1 week, and then was back up and machines powered on the next week.
Yeah, he's making parts.
It sounds like he's making more than that. Did you just say family? So yes. you have a whole family you had to move?
Yeah, I'm married.
Tell us about that.
I'm married, 2 kids, a little boy and little girl. So
what are their names?
Daniel and Irene.
Okay. How old are they?
15 or 16 months and 4 months.
My goodness. You are just, it's like, you know what it's like? It's like you're playing The Sims. And you just get to like make all the right choices for somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I already got 2 kids. I've got a little business. I'm 20 years old. That's so cool, man.
Yeah,
It's seriously so cool and so refreshing.
Crazy, and it makes me step back sometimes and just realize, like, wow, I've been blessed with so much.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool. You've just got like, you give all the glory to God. You've got such a heart full of gratitude. And you're just going to keep on pushing. I was just blown away. Every time we talk, I'm just blown away more and more. So, okay. So at this point in the story, you got a 600 square foot corner of your dad's place that you just moved out of. And now you're in Idaho?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. And yeah, after getting the DM2, it was sort of just, I would do any random project I could find. Just continued growing skills of running parts. Got one contract for a bunch of stainless steel parts. So that's sort of what got me into more of like actual manufacturing of, hey, I've got a bunch of parts that need to be made. Somebody just heard that I got the mill and they're like, hey, we've got this part. Can you do it? And me being a unexperienced person was like, yeah, I can figure it out. So that was a ton of work. But
say yes, figure it out later.
Yes, that's been sort of the story of a lot of things.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, when you have faith, why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been delivering that part for 2 years now.
So you said random, just kind of random jobs here and there, but I imagine it's not, entirely random. Like you have to bring revenue into your business. You have to have, as an entrepreneur, you have to care about every function of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you love to build things and make things and do the operation side of the business, but you have to go put a brand out there and you got to go attract work. And so I think a lot of times the people who fall in love with the business of machining and running a shop just really love making parts, and that's where their heart is. And then sometimes they're like, oh crap, I have to run an entire company. I have to do finance. I have to do, I don't know if you have employees yet, but I may have to do HR. I have to do the sales and marketing side of it. So like, how random was it? Was it entirely random, or how did you attract revenue into your business?
Yeah, so I wanted to focus on like designing my own products, but you can't do that without money. So it was more of, I would just talk to people, and work was I was able to find work just from talking to people, and they'd have a project they wanted me to do, and that I would sort of use the contract work, use that to generate all the income that could then go pay for me to invent stuff. So that's sort of how I got into more of contract manufacturing. Is that's a good way to pay for this big machine.
That's awesome. Were you out knocking on doors saying, hey, I've got this machine, I can make these types of parts? Or how did people find you? Was it word of mouth?
Yeah. So, and it's still that way to this day. Like I don't go knock on doors. Like people come find me. So, and a funny story, like since moving up here to Idaho, I didn't go ask for any work, but I've got 13,000 parts now that need to be made just since moving up here. Of just people reached out to me. They're like, hey, we heard you moved. Can you take this on?
So how do people know you? Are you pretty active on social media? I mean, your story is incredible. So I imagine as soon as somebody hears it, they're like, I want to do business with that guy. And he's look at how he's done his life. But how are you not just a stranger in the abyss? People seem to find you.
Yeah, I don't post very much on social media. I've started doing that just to get some pictures and stuff out. But there's no following or anything from social media. It's really just I go talk to one person, or I deliver really good parts to somebody, and they go talk to somebody else, and that's how everything's grown so far.
Power of the referral.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. Okay, so you have 13,000 parts you need to make, and you've got a machine we talked about earlier. You got a brand new Matsura. So what is your equipment list like right now? Is it just those two machines?
So yeah, the two machines, and then a Haas ST20Y, so a dual spindle lathe. So I put that one in early last year to do a bunch of titanium parts.
Yeah, I saw on LinkedIn you had the bar feeder running overnight, making parts. That's pretty awesome.
Yes.
Dave, that's a good segue, right? Like this is the Lights Out podcast. We're telling his entrepreneurial story, but we at some point have to get into some technology and automation. So,
Oh yeah.
I think that's probably a good segue into that, Michael. Like, what is your perspective, and how do you think about running a company, and why was the bar feeder an important choice for you? And where do you see the business going as it relates to automation and technology and figuring out how to do more with less? Because is it still just you right now? Or are you the only employee?
Yes. So it's just me. My dad does some of the business side of it, so he helps out with that. Which he's a wealth of experience and knowledge, because he was in the Air Force for 11 years as a test pilot, and then coming in and just doing online retail. So it's been really neat being able to be mentored by someone like him, of just all these business decisions that come up every day, being able to talk to him and get feedback.
Is it an everyday thing? Are you talking to your dad every single day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he helps out with the business side of it. So he helps manage that.
So cool.
But yeah, as far as the Lights Out stuff, I guess it's more of necessity of I can't do all of this and still spend time with my family.
So this is perfect, right? So I know David has some questions. I have some questions. I think we'll we'll fire away. We won't fart. You can edit that out, Jen. We will fire away.
I'll go in the blooper reel.
Yeah.
Leave it in there, editors. That was gold.
My first question is, you just bought a nice new 5-axis machine, one that is really known. I mean, I think when we had the opportunity to meet with Yuto Matsura, he mentioned something like almost 85% of their machines are sold with a pallet pool, but you got yours without one. So I'm curious if you'd be, gracious to share with us what went behind that decision, and why, like, you know what, I'm going to look at a third-party solution for this.
So the machine, it's actually a used machine. So it's a 2016
Okay.
Matsura. It had really good hours. When I was looking at adding a second machine, I didn't even consider Matsura because I was like, oh, that's going to be way too expensive. But just started looking into it, and I got a quote for a different brand of machine for basically the same price as this machine. This machine had 60 tools, full 5-axis, and it was a Matsura, and I'd heard good things about that. So that was sort of the reason for getting that. And then just realizing that I can't run this 24 hours a day. So I need some way to keep the spindle running and be able to get more parts out.
What is up, Metalworking Nation, Making Chips family? It is an even year, which means IMTS is coming. September 14th through 19th at McCormick Place in beautiful Chicago. It is the largest manufacturing trade show in North America, bringing together thousands of manufacturers, OEMs, and solution providers every 2 years to explore how new technologies are being applied to real shop floors. So whether you're planning future capital investments, benchmarking operations, or simply trying to cut through the noise around emerging technologies, IMTS is designed to help manufacturers make better, more informed decisions. Whether you've been going for years or this might be your first time, put it on your calendar right now. Schedule your time away from the shop. It's good to get out and see new things. It's going to be a big party. I hope to see you there. Go to imts.com and register today.
Yeah, and I know you came, when we spoke, it sounded like you were leaning towards like more of a palletized system over just like, nominal machine tool tending, just a work piece and a cobot type setup. And I'm curious if you wanted to share, what went into that, what was behind that decision, what's driving that.
Yeah, so for the Matsura, just it's got the capacity to be able to hold a bigger table. So if I can go put 10, 20 parts on the table and get one tool change for all the parts, that significantly saves time. Where if I can just swap the pallet once and then be running versus having the door open, blowing off the part, putting it back in, that I feel like is a win for that style machine. I would definitely consider the direct part loading for the other machine, like the DM, because that one's just crazy fast.
Yeah.
It's like a perfect way to think through it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have one more question, and then I know David has a bunch, so I don't want to hog your time. And this one is a little winded, so allow me to kind of talk around it. But one of the things that I think fascinates me about you the most would be like trying to understand your perspective, right? So let me preempt this question with, so when I was in high school, cell phones weren't commonplace, right? So digital communication isn't always at like my forefront, right? Where we're with my children, Jack and Grace, cell phones have been around since they've been alive. And it's honestly like their main way of communication, right? So I look at some of the generational gaps in this industry kind of under that same lens. And I'm just curious, your perspective, like when you walk into a shop, like I think like a lot of people from my generation and maybe even older than me, they see the machine tool, they think about who am I going to put in front of that machine tool? And then automation tends to be an afterthought when it becomes a necessity. But I'm curious, like someone like you, especially with your background, like when you walk, when you're visualizing your shop, like are you seeing the automation? Is that just part of where you're like, is that at the forefront of the decisions you're making?
Yes. Yeah. And I would credit that to podcasts like with Intolerance. Just realizing that you can do so much more with one machine than most people make use of the machine. And realizing like even myself, if my machine is sitting for 18 hours a day, like that's completely ridiculous to just leave that amount of investment just sitting there when for just a process change for some things, like with the lathe, any lathe literally can go run parts overnight. So just realizing that I want to be able to make lots of parts and I don't want to hire someone right now.
Yeah, like you said, you don't want to cut into your family time. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for answering that. I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's so cool, Michael. I mean, it sounds like, you have a bit of an intention for the type of business you want to build, and you're leveraging technology as a way to do more without having to bring on, a big team of people, without having to increase the overhead of your business with all kinds of payroll and stuff. And I think that's so cool. I think what a lot of folks struggle with is that, there's more to automation than just buying a bar feeder, than just buying, a pallet pool, for example. So, I mean, I imagine over this process, you've had to learn work holding strategy and tooling strategy and all these different things, that had to kind of happen before, the equipment that would enable kind of this automation or semi-automation. So could you speak to what that journey looked like for you? I mean, how did you learn these things? Was it trial and error? Was it titans of CNC videos, a mixture of both? What does that process look like?
Yeah, I guess digging into every single YouTube video I could find on feeds and speeds, like what does good work holding look like? And then just sort of seeing some examples of that, where I never toured any shop for the first couple of years of my of the machining stuff I did. So it was all literally just seeing people online doing it and then figuring out, how do I go make this work for my parts?
Like, was there any kind of like an aha moment, like that first time you had a bit of like an automation win where you're like, it kind of, a light bulb went off in your head, kind of like the one behind Nick's head right now? Those watching the video, Nick's lamp placed hilariously as
I just glow.
I
just think
Soul glow.
Could you speak to like what those first couple wins look like, even if they were small? Just like maybe it was the way you structured your program, or anything like that.
Yeah, so I will say I'm very new to automation. Like, I have not been doing it for very long. So the first real taste of that was right before Boombastic. I had a week to get 500 4140 pre-hard parts done. So that was a lot of parts. I was staying up till midnight for quite a few nights. I was like, this is ridiculous. I don't want to do this anymore. So with just a few program changes on the lathe, because that's what it was running on, I could get the sub spindle to grab it, cut it off, and dump it in the parts catcher. And then if I can do that for a bar for 5 hours, I can leave at 10 p.m., come in early to set a timer. And that's literally a whole basket of finished parts. And then just realizing, wait, I can just run for 5-6 hours, and seeing the potential of that. And that's sort of when the bug bit me of like, I got to do this for every part.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm sure that had implications too, in terms of maybe other jobs you're entertaining. Like, I know you've got your own products, which obviously lends itself to designing a process around how you're manufacturing those. But also in terms of any kind of jobs you're taking in from outside, are you kind of filtering that through only selecting the types of jobs that kind of align with that automation approach?
Yeah. So definitely finding parts that are not going to be crazy parts to try to automate. Definitely any lathe work, that's an easy part to do. So I've got 4,000 parts that are going to run this week, hopefully mostly through the night. And then, just trying to figure out, how do you actually do that?
Sure.
One thing I love about you, dude, is when you're talking about automation, when you're talking about the why behind how you're going to run your company, you're like, I need the time with my family. I mean, you're 20 years old, you got 2 kids. A lot of young entrepreneurs don't understand that, and they become workaholics. And I'll get to the family time later, but your kids, I've got 4 little kids, like they're only, what'd you say? They're like 4 months and 13 months. They're only that age once. And if you're gone the whole time, you miss it. And so I just really like that you're like, I was staying up till midnight every night, and then I had to figure out how to automate, not because I'm going to make all this money, which you'll be a more profitable company, but it's more like, I just want to spend time with my kids.
Yeah. And hats off. I mean, I think arrival syndrome is something that a lot of shops deal with. And for you to be so ahead of that, right? I don't know if you're familiar with arrival syndrome, they call it, but it's essentially, as soon as I get to point A, then, right? So as soon as I get this done, then, and arrival syndrome is a fallacy, right? There's always another challenge, another thing coming down the pipe. So you're always just kind of moving the goalpost. So for you, to have figured these things out and really have those priorities set is amazing. And I think further speaks to just what an amazing role faith has played in your life.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
I think that's a very big part of it is I desire to work hard. Like I'm not trying to get out of work. I think work is a good thing given by God, and I want to use it well and be able to still make time for priorities in my life, like family.
That's awesome. Yeah. So how does that shape? I mean, we're recording this episode during the first week of the new year, and how is that shaping your outlook for 2026 in terms of and beyond? Really, the future of your business. What are the next steps, Michael, that you're thinking about?
Yeah, so definitely getting the shop to the point where it can run for longer periods of time without me or with maybe one other person. If I can load up material on a Friday, Saturday, and then let it run all weekend or even all night for the full week, that's a big increase in throughput. So that's sort of my goal. That and then just sort of the business side of figuring out how do you handle all these parts. You guys have talked about it here on the podcast of like you can't just automate one process and ignore the rest of it. So trying to figure out how do I track all these new tools, making sure I'm stocked with everything, coolant's working well, all these different things that play into it of how do you get more parts out the door. That's sort of my goal for this year.
We always talk about how when you add automation, it just further exposes your bottleneck either before or after whatever you automated.
Yes.
And so like it just that talk about arrival syndrome where you've never really arrived. I mean, that's kind of what figuring out how to run lights out is. You just create a new problem that you need to solve later. But every time you get to that next level, you're running a more profitable, more sustainable, more globally competitive business.
Yeah, your processes are that much better.
Yeah. So you just have to constantly level up. I mean, we talked a lot about the time we spent in Switzerland at a shop that's got probably the most expensive real estate you could ever imagine, and a bunch of Metzeras actually, and very expensive labor in Switzerland. And they have to be at the absolute peak performance to compete making workholding products. They're making workholding products, competing against people from all over the world and very, very much more cost competitive countries to produce a part. And they're still able to do it because they take labor out of the equation, because their machines are running all the time without people standing there, being bored, opening and closing a door.
Yeah. So that's sort of the goal of just trying to figure out how to actually do that and what equipment do I need to bring in this year to make that happen.
And inevitably, like with some level of growth, you typically want to add people. Mm-hmm. But as you're talking, I'm constantly going back to one of the earliest episodes of Lights Out with a guy named Ryan Bankel of Imago Manufacturing. If you haven't heard it, you'd love it.
Okay.
But the whole concept is time freedom. And I'm hearing that as a why in what you're talking about is I want time freedom. And so what they've done is I always describe this company like they run their shop like a band. It's 5 people roughly, and they don't want to get bigger than the walls of the building they're in. They just want to use every square foot and every second to the fullest. So they're just like, hey, we've got 7, 8, 9 machines, whatever it is, and we just want to automate them all and get better at running them all and have each of us run 2, 3, 4 machines and have the whole shop never stop. If we do that, we'll all grow together as part of the business. We don't need to hire 10 more people. We don't need to get to the next building. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just think that's kind of cool. Like they've got their guardrails and their standards, and they've got the type of company that they want to be. And I'm seeing some of that in you, but I guess I should ask you before I assume, how big does it get for Michael King? I mean, you got the last name. You could really be the king of Idaho if you wanted.
Yeah. We'll see how far it goes. The new shop I just moved into is 20,000 square feet. So
That's a bit of an upgrade from
Just a little. Just a little.
600 to 20,000.
yeah. So I've got, I think 1,800 or 3,000 right now that I've immediately filled up. But I've got room and potential to grow this a lot bigger. But yeah, the question is like, do you just get more machines or do you just put automation on the existing machines and get the exact same output? So I'm sort of trying to figure that out and realizing that you can do a lot more with machines than
Oh yeah.
people.
High density work holding. Like, yeah, it really is, the limit is your imagination, and someone like you who is just a fabricator's brain will have no issues maximizing the capacity. I have no doubts about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really hoping to take it wherever the Lord blesses it. I've been given so much work already. Like, I've got way more work than I can handle. So trying to get things a little bit stable, and then I'm sure there'll be more work that comes in.
That's awesome. So Eric said the word imagination, and I think that's the difference between people who are exceptional and people who just kind of blend in with the crowd. And it's those that are able to take their imagination and make it real. And, I think it's awesome that you credit the Lord and your faith for what you've been able to accomplish. Since you won't do it for yourself, we'll sing your praises, because you're one of those people, those rare people who can like have a vision and then make it happen. And you've just done that throughout your entire young 20-year life. So paint us a picture. You got this Metsura. It's probably the machine you're most excited about. How do you imagine the work that's going through that machine by the end of this year or the end of 3 years or something? Like when you're having one of those moments where you're like, man, wouldn't it be cool if, what does it look like to you? What type of work do you have, and what does that output look like? And what are you excited to go chase down and achieve?
Yeah. Based on some of the work I've already gotten, I would sort of have the goal of being able to have some sort of automation on that machine, be able to go run complicated titanium parts, because I do a lot of titanium on the lathe, but it'd be really neat to do more mill stuff for titanium. If I could do that during the day and then just hit go on 6 pallets of small, like high density parts, that they're really cheap parts, they're easy parts to make. But if I can run all of those during the night and then do just creative stuff during the day, I think that'd be a really neat thing. That's really cool.
Yeah. I love what you said. We say it all the time. Do the finicky stuff that you got to really watch and babysit and pay attention to during the day. And all the stuff you've already proven out where it's just time. Now it's just time. Let that time happen while you're sleeping.
Rip the restrictor plate off the old Red Dragon and run all night.
Yep.
I said I didn't have any more questions. I apologize, David, but I do have one, something that I've been thinking about since you said it. Did you actually also drive the semi truck from Tennessee to Boise?
I did not. I rented.
Okay. I don't know. Like that would have just blown my mind even more.
It was pretty logistics though, because I had riggers on both sides, 2 semi trucks that had to show up. Like the full rigging crew that needed to arrive with the semi trucks. It was a 8 or 12 hour load time for the whole shop in Tennessee. We ran out of room on the one truck in Tennessee with still like 15 pallets of small stuff. So I like hand loaded all of that onto the truck and just like crammed it in so that I didn't have to send a second one. It was a pretty crazy move and lots of hours, but I'm really happy with it.
Awesome.
So we talked a lot about your successes and what you're excited about, and it seems like things have gone pretty well for you. But with most entrepreneurs, there's that kind of, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can survive this moment. Did you have any of those? I mean, have you had any like where you literally just can't sleep and you're freaking out? A job that you're going to be late on or something like that, like something's about to come crashing down and you have that entrepreneurial panic that's so familiar to people who run their own business?
Yes. Yeah, I have that all the time, but I will balance that with, I know that God is in control and he wants the best for me. So no matter what crazy things are going on, I know that it's going to be all right and I can go sleep through that. But yeah, for sure, there's so many different things of like, oh no, this tool broke and I don't have a backup of like, what am I going to do? Yeah. So many things like that. And even right now, I've got a ton of parts to make and I'm behind on stuff. So I need to just figure out how to get it done and get them shipped.
Well, I'll give you the good news and the bad news. The good news is we're going to let you go. Take those parts. And the bad news is the whole word of mouth thing. Probably going to get a lot worse when we put this online, share it to thousands of people.
Once we introduce you as the future king of Idaho.
Yeah. You got my vote, brother.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking to take on more work, but I got to get some robots in to be able to handle that. But I think there's definitely the potential to be able to do way more than I'm currently doing just with the existing machines. If I'm only realistically running 4 or 6 hours a day for each machine, if I can scale that up to 20 hours and just let parts run, like I can get a cheaper price for people, get really good parts, deliver them in half the time. And that's sort of what I've been trying to do with stuff. And I've just been working crazy hours.
Yeah. So I would say 2 things. Your approach to like get the most out of the machine before you buy a new one is exactly what we would recommend. You don't need to try to figure out like how many machines do I need to put into this 20,000 square feet to fill it all up when you could maximize the time, the spindle time that is in the machines you already have, so you have the right perspective there.
I don't want to walk that much. I'm lazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you're lazy, but I hear you, man. That's one of the wastes is unnecessary movement, wandering around too much when you could 5S your shop and keep it nice and lean.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I would just maybe caution you a little bit is just because you get more efficient, just because you automate, just because you run a top shop that's world class doesn't mean you need to drop your price.
Yeah. But that's what I've heard some advice from other people. And I'm definitely prone to trying to drop the price because like, oh, I can do this way cheaper, but there's all the added headache and cost of actually doing that, being able to deliver that service.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be competitive. You want to have your ear to the ground and know kind of, what you should charge and what's competitive for your area. But dude, like, you shouldn't have to like make less profit. At the end of the day, the bottom line is what matters. When you get better, you should become more profitable, and that you should be proud of it. And then I know your heart. You're going to do great things with that profit. You're going to be a great steward because I just see like, gosh, if my kids turn out like you, I did a great job. So, yeah, dude, I'm just proud of you, dude. I'm so excited to tell your story. You do restore my faith in the next generation of this industry. And so thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. And I just can't wait to like bring you on again. And, maybe once a year we bring you on and we keep talking about this journey. And, at some point, maybe 2-3 years from now, we're talking about what your plans are for Idaho as the king of it.
Hey, Michael, I'm just curious as we kind of close up this episode, you're kind of living out what, we expect is going to happen to a lot of smaller shops over the coming years and kind of managing this change of adopting technology to run leaner and faster and more profitably. Based on your perspective and where you're at in your journey, do you have any advice that, you'd give other shop owners?
Great question.
Kind of facing technology adoption and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I will say I'm not the expert in this, but from the limited stuff that I've done, there are ways that you can automate some stuff without adding any capital expense of like a new robot. If you have any sort of lathe, you should be running that. If you have the right parts for it, you should be able to get 5+ hours very easily with a bar puller, sub spindle, bar feeder. So there's very easy ways to turn that on almost immediately. I would say if you're running mill stuff, if you're running one part in a dinosaur vise, try to get 4, 6, 8 parts. If you can get your cycle time past 30 minutes, that gives you some walk away time to just go do other stuff. You can be programming the next part, cleaning up, eating lunch. Just try and get that cycle time up where you're not immediately swapping out parts. Coolant and good tools, those are really important for that. High pressure coolant. So 1,000 PSI, I've got that on all the machines. I know it's a big expense, but it completely pays for itself, especially when you're doing stuff like titanium.
Man, I feel like he's just kind of listing off. I hate to plug ourselves here, but coolant management, work holding, automation. We don't do bar feeders, okay? But everything else, it's like you are preaching to the choir, man, and you are so right about it. Get the most out of those machines. And thank you for using the word dinosaur vise that I believe my uncle created that term, and me and Eric do our best to evangelize the sin of dinosaur vices and help people repent from it and maximize their work holding envelope.
Yeah, get a 0 point. Like, don't be probing stuff. That was something that changed in my perspective after running the lathe. Of I've got 1 0 point for that. I've got collet chucks. I can change material diameter in 20 seconds. And I've got a good template in Fusion where I just go drop the part in. It auto populates almost everything. So I can be cutting pretty quickly and doing subspindle pickoffs and subspindle backwork without the risk of like hand coding something. So get that process in order and figure out what it takes to just run more time. And then if you can leave at the end of your workday and get 5 more hours of parts, like that's almost another shift.
Yeah, it really is.
So I encourage anyone to seriously look into what you already have, get started with that, and then grow it from there.
Man, I love it so much.
Amazing.
Hey, Michael, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much, Michael.
Yeah, awesome. Should we
take us home, David?
Yeah, that is a wrap for this episode of the Lights Out podcast. Thanks for watching and listening. Huge thanks to Michael King from the Munkworks for sharing his journey and some real practical insight into what automation looks like in a modern machine shop. If you got value from this conversation, make sure you like and subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes. And be sure to share this with a friend or colleague in manufacturing who's thinking about how to work smarter, not harder. And as always, remember, Lights Out manufacturing doesn't have to start with robots. It can start with mindset, systems, and processes. All right, folks, should we turn the lights out on this episode?
I think we should, man. That was
Absolutely.
awesome.
Thanks.
God bless, Michael. Thank you, sir.
Thank you much. See ya.
See ya. Get back to those parts, brother. We'll talk again in a year.
Sounds good.
Paul, tell me about your trip to Italy.
I went there with the NTMA and we got to tour SMW Autoblok, 2 different facilities. Absolutely blew me away. World class, enormous places. I can't even count how many machines there were, but so much automation. One of the most incredible takeaways for me was the breadth of what they made. I did not know they made so many work holding products and automation products. And I loved watching a big chuck machine a little chuck. So they were machining chucks in huge lathes. I thought that was super fun.
Yeah, you introduced them to me after you came back, and they've been to my shop. And the ideas they have to like breathe new life into some of my machines and the tools and the jobs that we're running was just shocking.
And then one of the coolest things is we're bringing this new automated pallet delivery system, the Hennig workflow, to market. And guess what the interface is? It's SMW 0-point locators. It's really sweet.
We're getting ready to get some of those.
So how do people find SMW Autoblok to look through that massive catalog of products?
It's SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
Yeah, get rid of that C. SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.